You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, back to the SDSU podcast. I'm your host, Andre Hagberdian. We'll be joined shortly by my co-host, Paul Garrison, and also by Johnny Olivieri, who helped out on one of these interviews that I was unable to make. A few weeks ago, we had a podcast episode that had interviews with Jalen Maiden and Noah Tumblin, two of the 5 San Diego State players that participated in their pro day and who are looking to either get drafted in the NFL draft at the end of this month or sign as an undrafted free agent. Today's episode has 2 more interviews with one with Jack Browning, one with Cedarious Barfield, who are 2 of those 5 guys. And it was great catching up with both of them. We had not had either of them on the podcast before, although we had talked to both a lot throughout their careers. We hadn't had a chance to have a sit down on the podcast, so it was nice to catch up with them and also find out what's the latest with them on their draft prospects and their preparing for the draft in just a couple weeks. Let's get to Jack Browning's interview first, which Johnny and Paul conducted, and then we'll get to Cedarious Barfield's interview, which Paul and I did, and then Paul and I will be back at the end to close it out with our takeaways.
I want to welcome Jack Browning to the SDSU podcast. Jack, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, just starting off, we'd love to deep dive into everything you, man, but just in an overview, what has the last couple of months been like for you?
Yeah, very, very busy, pretty unsteady, just because you just really never know exactly what to expect. But pretty much ever since season started, went straight to training with Coach Nick Novak. I've trained with him over the years, but just this last few months or so, I've been really able to get down to all the details and be able to bust my butt and work real hard, and it's been showing a lot recently.
I mean, so tell me a little bit more about that, because, when you say it's been showing up, like what does that mean in terms of the growth that you've seen in your game?
Yeah, well, I mean, the number one thing as a punter, or if you're going to be a kicker, or even as a long snapper, the specialist, it's consistency. And as a punter, you really want to, it's not always about those big balls. Sometimes it's more just about where you're putting it and how often are you putting it there. So I'd say a big step in my game has been improving my consistency this last few months.
And then going back, man, playing at West Hills, Grossmont, how fun was it to get to play for your hometown team? And did you attend any Aztec games? And what was your Aztec kind of fandom growing up?
It's been real fun, to be honest. I grew up an Aztec fan. I remember coming home from work, and my dad would have the Aztec games on Saturday nights, and I'd just sit there and watch the last few quarters. And even in 2019, I started 10 more just because I knew I was going to be going to college here pretty soon, because that was my senior year. Or sorry, that'd been 2018, but I was going to more and more games, and really started to draw more interest into San Diego State. Ended up going to Grossmont and then finding my way to SDSU, and it's been a blast. I have no regrets on my career or the path that I went, and just had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Jack, you walk on to SDSU in 2021. Were there other schools you were thinking of? And if so, what sort of made you choose SDSU?
Yeah, I had a couple other schools offer me, I had some smaller scholarships or other preferred walk-on spots, but I just felt really comfortable staying at San Diego State, staying home. Obviously, spring of 21, a lot of COVID was still in full effect.
Yeah.
And so visits, official visits weren't really much of a thing. It was kind of just virtual visits. And so I
Okay.
kind of had the upper hand of kind of knowing San Diego State already. So I decided to just stick with my gut and stick with, being close to family and friends and make the most of it. And
Yeah.
and I was able to. So
Yeah, awesome.
And what was the feeling like, when you received that scholarship? You mentioned kind of passing on some scholarships to be able to come in San Diego State, kind of bet on yourself. And so what was it like when the culmination of that and you got that scholarship?
I remember it being just like a surreal feeling, like kind of no way this is happening. You don't really feel it, all the hard work come to you right away. So it definitely took some time for it all to sink in, but just pure joy. I just remember being hoisted above my teammates' shoulders and just kind of everyone coming along and celebrating me and my accomplishment. So it was awesome. I loved it.
I think you potentially had like maybe the hardest job in football because you followed Matt Ariza.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely some big shoes or big cleats to fill for sure.
Yeah. So at what point for you did you realize that, like, playing on Sundays, it was like in your future?
Well, I'd say thankfully, just the way my journey and my path has gone, I've had some pretty reputable people in my corner, working with Coach Novak, and then the guys that come and visit him during the off season and stuff. Some of the NFL guys, being able to work with them a little bit and seeing that, I may not be exactly where they're at, but I feel like if I put in the work, I could definitely get to it. And so I just feel like being able to kind of compare myself in those aspects, and then having the good people in my corner just encouraging me along the way just really helped me to strive towards the goal of the NFL. And hopefully, I make it there soon. So
Awesome. Yeah, man, we saw you make some great plays on some fake punts and field goals, during your career with the Aztecs. I remember that one against Hawaii when you were the holder, ran that thing for a touchdown. That was awesome. I read that you ran track at West Hills. What events did you run there?
I ran the open four, so the 400 meter, the
Okay.
4x4, and then just some high jump. But I only
Okay.
did track until my sophomore year, so only the first 2 years of high school I was running track.
Yeah. So some speedy stuff. High jumped on it. I didn't see you hurdle anybody, but luckily you're just quick to get by him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another question about kicking, man. You make that like a good example is that 61-yard field goal you made against Air Force, which was a school record and a Mountain West record. What techniques do you have to sort of because we know you obviously have the leg power, but the mental part of it to kind of stay focused and just get that ball through the uprights?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the deeper ones, you're almost relaxed more because there's kind of the thoughts going through people's head, like, it's far, the likelihood of him making it is probably not too high. And I actually like it, being like that, because then you're able to prove them wrong, which I love being in that scenario. We're able to prove some people wrong.
Yeah.
So in the instance of the 61-yarder, that's probably one of the most calm field goals I've ever hit. And I was able to hit it. Well, I guess I was 5 yards up at first, but I was able to have 2 attempts before it. And out of the total of 3, I made 2. The other one went off right up the left upright. But I was feeling good. I feel like I didn't have too much pressure. It was right before half. So I thought that, only momentum could come from it. And thankfully, I was able to bang it, make it through the pipes.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Cracked me up, man. So I in the press box for that, that game, they had us like at the 50-yard line. And every kick that I've ever seen from that perspective has always, like, if you're on my left, then you're kicking to the left. If you're on my right, you're kicking to the right. And like, you were on my right, kicking to the left, and I was like, what? It was bizarre. And then when you put it through, man, it was just like the press box kind of erupted as if you were the Air Force kicker. Like no one could believe. They were like, what just happened? That was 61. That was 61. That was 61. And like all of the things before they officially announced it, man. It was something I won't forget. It was something else.
Yeah, I was gonna say like our video guy Murph, he sent us some clips of just on field videos, and you can kind of see in the background some of the fans, even from the Air Force side, just kind of like what? It's like in shock, like cheering for me, even though it's not that team, but they're just so shocked that a 61-yarder they're able to witness it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, it was obviously not the greatest game overall for the Aztecs. And so it also furnished me with a nice post-game press question for Coach Hope, because it was at least a positive, like, why not a Hail Mary there? Like, why, you know what I mean? Like every other coach in the world would throw a Hail Mary there. It was incredible. But as you look back, through your time at SDSU, maybe what are some of the memories or the moments that you're going to take away from you as you go forward?
Well, when I reflect on my first year there, so being the holder, there's obviously the fake and where I was able to score a touchdown. That's one of my most fond memories. But another memory that just always pops up into my mind when I'm thinking about that season was we were playing Nevada, and there's about a minute left, and this was pretty much, if we lose, we're pretty much not going to make it to the Mountain West Championship. And I remember we lined up. I can't remember exactly the yard line, but it was a pretty good distance field goal. And I remember I was obviously the holder, so I was holding it for Matt. And I just remember looking at Matt, like waiting for him to give me the head nod. And I just felt so much confidence. I could see the confidence in Matt, and I just felt the confidence of being able to put it down right on the mark where he wants it. And I just remember him putting it through the pipes and, uh, you know, able to stop them on defense. And we ran out the clock. And I just remember that was one of the better feelings and best memories that I had of that season. Um, but man, then I go on to 2022, and I feel like I can recall almost every game having a good memory. Uh, I thought it was definitely one of my better years compared to this past 2023, where there's definitely some games where I feel like I had some moments where I wish I had back. Um, but overall, I felt like every repetition that I got and that chance I had out on the field, I was able to make the most of it. And that's kind of what you have to do as a specialist, because you only get so many. So each one you get, you got to make the most of them. And I feel like I did that over my career at San Diego State.
Yeah.
And then since then you've already kind of let us know a little bit about what's been going on with that, but take us to the NFL Combine, Pro Day, and maybe any conversations you've been having with NFL teams, and just where all of that, some of the details with that process.
Yeah, so this year for the NFL Combine, it was a little bit different than years past. It's called the NFL Specialist Showcase. So what they did is they actually expanded it. So instead of bringing like 3, 4 guys of, punter, and then 3, 4 kickers, and then a couple of long snappers maybe, they actually expanded it even more. So I think there's like a total of 25 guys. And by way of doing this, they brought in some international guys, part of the IPP program. So there's guys from the UK, Ireland, that grew up playing different sports, but they still had some strong legs on them. So it was actually really, really cool and really interesting. But I think the punters, I competed on Monday. I showed up Saturday. I flew out Saturday morning, got there Saturday evening, just got my gear, checked in, got it to my hotel, and I was like the last guy there just because I was the furthest come from San Diego, whereas like the international guys were already training prior in Florida, so they're pretty darn close. And so I was like one of the last ones there. So as soon as I got all my stuff situated in my hotel room, I went straight to dinner, and then right after dinner we had meetings with the coaches, and it was really cool how they did the meetings. I don't know if they've done it before, but they had, I think there was like 7 or 8 tables with 6 or more coaches at each table. So there's a lot of coaches and scouts representing just about every team. And then each player was at a table. We went in groups, and so like I was part of the first group, and so there's one player at a table getting questions from these coaches and scouts for about 10 minutes, and then after 10 minutes you rotate, just kind of like a speed dating like thing. So it was really cool. You're able to talk to every coach, hear from every coach, but they're also efficient with time and how many players there were. So that was Saturday, and then Sunday the kickers went. We also took a some PAT tests right beforehand. So I didn't get too much action on there. But then Monday came, and Monday morning we're punting, and I remember being just so nervous, but I still was able to perform really, really well. And I think I really helped myself out. A lot of coaches came up to me afterwards and really said that kind of took a step in the right direction, especially because when I got there, a lot of the coaches saw me more as a kicker than a punter. And when I told them I was competing, I was going to be coming in as a punter, they're kind of shocked and confused as to why. But I feel like I was able to show them why I was coming in as a punter. And I think they agreed that I am a guy that can be punting on Sundays. And so, yeah, that weekend was a good step in the right direction for me. And then pro day also went real well. I remember punting went really, really well. I think I turned over, so I hit out of 15 balls. I think I only had one bad punt. And I think that was the one where I was going into the wind. So the next rep I fixed it, and I had a good ball after that. And then field goals, I missed a few, but then made a few. So it's kind of an okay day. But I remember kickoffs. I just remember being embarrassed for what I showed on kickoffs. But after talking with the coaches and the scouts afterwards, they said, kind of just to brush it off, that I had plenty of film of showing them that I can kick off, and then I did it I kicked off at the combine, so I was able to show them I kick off there as well. So they kind of just told me just brush it off and not even worry about it.
Cool. Now the NFL draft is coming up pretty quick. What have you been told how the next couple months will be for you?
Yeah, so after talking with my agent, we're kind of just waiting right now for any private workouts coming along. Definitely some teams that have said that they're interested, but with just the way that the position's looking for punters amongst the league, I think everyone kind of has their guy for the most part. And so I know, at least in my scenario, there hasn't been any private workouts or even talks of private workouts yet.
Okay.
But still very possible in the next couple of weeks. But there's still some coaches that are, interested in, a rookie mini camp invite, or maybe even just, who knows, an undrafted free agent signing. Just, trying to keep the hopes up a little bit during this whole time of uncertainty, and you just really never know what's going to happen. So just got to keep the faith.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of a fun question. When you you do get on an NFL team and you leave the city of San Diego, what are you going to miss most while you're away?
Miss most, definitely family and friends are, tough to replicate when you're away from them. So
Yeah,
that's definitely gonna be tough. But I mean, you think about San Diego food, you can't really get that anywhere else. A lot of people come down here and talk very highly about the food. So I've never really been away from San Diego for too long, so I've never experienced it yet. So I'm really kind of on edge about what to expect with other type of foods in different states.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're a little spoiled here with the weather and the food, probably.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
where's the barbecue pit going to be in the rankings of these things that you miss?
Definitely towards the top for sure. But who knows? My brother just moved from San Diego to Idaho, and within the next few years, hopefully we'll see more barbecue pits around the globe.
Is that right? Is that
Yeah.
the idea?
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome.
Cool.
Jack, really appreciate your time. Appreciated the last couple of years and getting to see, you know, just the entire process of your journey at San Diego State. Look forward to continuing to cover you and to pay attention to all the stuff that's going on, man.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, man, for sure.
We want to welcome Aztec for Life, Cedarious Barfield, to the podcast. How's it going today, man?
I appreciate you guys for having me on. Doing good, you know, just got done working out a little bit ago, so you know, feeling good.
The season ended, end of November. What have you been doing since the season ended?
Shoot, so you know, in I'd say January we had like this little showcase that me and Tumblr we were invited to actually. That was in Dallas. That was fun, you know, to talk to some scouts and everything and compete with some guys. And then after that, just trained. I went to Tampa, in Florida, and have fun training out there for a couple months. We had a little YouTube documentary going on there, so it's pretty fun to, you know, work out with a bunch of guys from, you know, Florida State and Rutgers and a bunch of big time schools. So seeing some big time players and stuff like that. And then after that, you know, had our pro day, and then after that, just went back to working out. Came home to El Paso, Texas, and then you know had some scouts just you know talking to my agent a little bit and everything like that. And then this week they're able to kind of contact us personally and everything like that. So excited for that.
Who was doing the YouTube documentary, and is that out yet?
Yeah, so it's called Athletes Innovations. And yeah, it's already out. It's about I'd say 9, 10 episodes, something like that.
Is there a particular episode you're in, or are you in all of them?
I'm in all of them. There's about like 4 or 5 maybe where I talk a little bit more and stuff like that, but I'm in all of them.
Cool. As you were going through the process right after the season ended and trying to get feedback and figure out where your draft prospects are, what were NFL teams or scouts telling you?
Sorry, I think it cut out. Could you repeat that?
Sure. As you were going through the process right after the season ended and declaring for the draft, were you hearing feedback from NFL teams about how they thought would fit in the NFL?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, my main thing was kind of making sure I chose the right agent. I had a couple of people hit me up and everything like that, so I kind of wanted to make sure I chose the right person that I knew, like you know, of course it's a business, of course, but they would want to you know get to know me on a personal level, and I could trust them and everything like that. And then other than that, yeah, mostly teams were going into the season. I guess the main thing was that they just wanted to see more productivity. Because you know I had a bunch of tackles and all that type of stuff years before. I showed up on special teams pretty well. It was just mostly getting interceptions, getting the ball back they wanted to see. Kind of did a pretty good job of that this past season. And so after that, you know, teams are just, you know, just going to wait and see how everything unfolds. I can play many different positions, so they kind of just, I guess, going through the roster and everything like that. So, going to be talking to teams, see which ones want me as a safety, nickel, or actually as a corner. Because when I went to that showcase in Dallas, I was playing outside corner, and I was looking good there. So we'll just see whatever a team wants me at.
So last season for the Aztecs was obviously a challenging one. What is it that you learned going through some of that adversity?
Just first of all, I learned that I do really love the game. You know, that was probably my first time having a losing season like that in maybe all of my life. So it was one of those things that, of course, being in a competitive, it was very frustrating and annoying. But it was one of those things that, being one of the older guys, I kind of had to, you know, regroup with the older guys and just make sure the younger guys just stayed in tune, stay engaged during practice and stuff like that. So it was really just a learning thing to kind of, you know, we got kicked down bad. And so it was one of those things where we kind of just had to suck it up and go to work every day.
I've been waiting to ask this question, man, because for everyone listening, you know, on the road, at home, because the season wasn't so great, the press conferences afterwards weren't a lot of fun. And very often they're sending Zed out there to have to talk to us, and Andre and I have to ask negative questions. We have to, what happened, what's going on. And then it all comes together and you all play a complete game and they don't send you out. Now, first of all, what's up with that? But second of all, I wanted to ask you to be able to get to ask you, how great was it to be able to have all of that come together and to be able to send out Coach Hoke the right way?
Man, well, first of all, they sent me out because, just being a veteran guy, like I just knew the right things to say, and everything. And,
Completely.
Coach Hoke would always come up to me, and our media guy would always say, like, they said we kind of need you, talking everything. So I took that role. And then after we won the Fresno game, I don't even know where I was, man. It was just like I was just probably somewhere hitting off, just like dang, like it's all over for college and everything like that, just soaking in the moment. But really sending Coach Hoke off the right way, I feel. That season kind of didn't show what I felt as though the talent that we did have. As you saw in that last game, we did put it together. Man, we looked good in every single phase, and we beat a really, really good Fresno State team. They were looking really good in the beginning of the season, undefeated and everything, beating Purdue at Purdue. So we looked really good that game, and it was just fun because you could see that just the happiness, because we didn't win for a while, and just seeing the guys just excited, running over there and getting the oil can, and after the game, just taking a whole bunch of pictures and us hugging each other, and people were crying and everything like that. It was just such a great moment.
Well, the lot for sitting in the press conference room waiting for Coach Hope to come out and the players, like it was loud, it was jubilant, like definitely we could hear it, and so it
Yeah,
must have been even more crazy in there.
yeah, yeah. It was great for sure.
I've heard you mention before that you're a military kid. Can you tell us what was it your mom or dad or both that were in the military?
Yeah. So both of my parents were Army. They met in Korea actually. So my dad got out around 9 or 10 years so that he could take care of me because I was super young. So he chose to get out, and then my mom, she stayed in for her whole 20 years and retired and stuff like that. So yeah, both of them were in the Army.
Now I know you had offers from all three service academies. Were you considering going that military route as well? And then ultimately why San Diego State was the place to be?
Not really, to be honest. They were such prestigious schools, though. I was blessed that they did offer me, but it was one of those things where my parents, they were telling me, they've been there, done that type thing, and they kind of just wanted to see me do a little bit more. Nothing against the Army or military at all, or nothing like that, but they knew that I did have the mind for computer science and a goal to go to the NFL and everything like that. But going to San Diego State, it was kind of crazy. So the coordinator at that time was Coach Gonzalez, and then the corners coach was Coach White. And Coach White's from El Paso, actually. I think he went to Burgess or something like that school here. And I played quarterback all of high school and everything like that. And then I never really wanted to play defense until maybe my senior year. I saw how fun it was, and then I felt as though that was my best opportunity to make it to the NFL. And then Coach White, he saw that I was athletic, and then I think he saw a game film because they put me at corner against like a 4-star receiver we had here. Did pretty good, and then I got offered. So that was a cool little moment. And then San Diego's a great area and spot like that. So they're the only school to offer me for DB, and that's the position I wanted to go to. So ultimately chose San Diego State.
Now we've obviously talked with Noah Tumblin over the years, and he was also a QB in high school. Pretty good one. Who was better?
Oh, I always it's funny. I always be messing with them, and I always say how like Tumblin was great for sure, but yeah, I think I was the tough one. I put up some crazy numbers for sure.
Leave it at that, man. When you look back at your career, as an Aztec, is there a play, a moment, things that you look back and you really like kind of fondly, it's one of your favorite moments?
Shoot, there's a lot. My top two moments would probably be when we went to UCLA because we haven't beaten them and forever. We went there and we were big underdogs, and then to win that game, it was amazing. And then of course the biggest one probably for me was um, probably the Utah game, triple overtime. We was controlling that game the whole time, and then for us to win that game in the way we did, to like a booth review, it was during COVID, running to our fans. It was just a special moment, and then for them to, end up winning the Pac-12 championship 2 years in a row after that, it was fun. It was fun.
Absolutely. And as you're thinking about like who was maybe like the toughest wide receiver that you had to cover man to man in your career?
There's quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I would say the toughest. I'd have to probably go with Tompkins. He played at Utah State. He's with the Buccaneers right now. He was a small dude, probably like 5'6", 5'7", but 160, 170, but could run. Like he was one of those guys that like you just couldn't teach what type of guy. What you couldn't teach his speed. So yeah, he was probably one of them for sure.
You talked about you started off your career as a corner, moved to warrior safety. What brought upon that change? And then, like, do you have a preference on which position you played?
Yeah, so came in at corner. Really had to get used to that because just the technique of it. It was fun and everything like that. But ultimately, that following season, we had a bunch of safeties. That's when Tariq left, and DJ left. So we kind of need some help back there at safety because we did have Taylor Hawkins in the corner room. We had a bunch of people, so I kind of asked to go to safety and everything like that, and they thought that was cool. So I switched over to safety, and I was boundary at that point, and then had fun there, and then moved me to field and everything, and then we started doing left and right. But honestly, in the NFL, I hope to play nickel because that's kind of what field warrior was, but a little more close to the box, be aggressive, and everything like that. Play curl flats, but also, in my opinion, outside corner. I know I might not be the tallest, but I don't know. Just covering in the slot in college is such a hard task, and so when I went to, like I said, outside corner during the showcase, I wouldn't say it felt easy, but it was very comfortable. And it felt a little more easier than inside with the two-way go and everything like that. So if I could play outside as well, that'd be fun. But probably nickel if I could choose.
Obviously, you graduated and moved on from San Diego State, but you're an alum, you're an Aztec for life. What have you heard or seen from the new coaching staff, including Sean Lewis, about, where he could take, San Diego State to the next level?
Yeah, I've been hearing about the guys just having fun. They said they're playing music. They're just they're having a bunch of people coming out to like their Saturday night practices. The guys are saying that it's just the vibe around there is just great. The coaches playing music even before the meetings and everything like that. So I feel as though these guys it's just a newer age, and so um, Coach Sean Lewis, I guess, is just, you know, able to kind of fit his coaching towards that. And the guys are really liking it. And the fact that they're like going to meetings and everything like that is translating to the field. And so guys are just playing harder. I've been hearing they got a lot of big time transfers on the offensive end and that are, shining and everything like that, playmakers and everything. So overall, I hear a lot of great competition. Another thing is a new defense, so that's pretty fun. So yeah, it's just a bunch of guys competing and having fun out there.
Getting back to your draft prospects, the SDSU had a pro day last month. You were there among, I think, 5 players. How do you think you did that day, and what, uh, how was that experience, and what feedback were you hearing?
I think I did pretty well. I was hearing some pretty good feedback. They liked my drill portions. They liked how I was getting out of breaks and everything like that. Because they could see me as well as a deep safety. So seeing some stuff like that, it was good seeing a good amount of coaches as well that was at the showcase. being there. And honestly, just being there was a blessing. I like to thank God for that for sure, because when you think about it, there was like 4 or 5 of us. And like you said, we didn't have the season that we wanted, but to still have 20 something NFL coaches there really shows that, that they like what they see, and they like the guys that were there. And so that was just a blessing that had that many eyes on us and everything like that. So, just excited to see how everything unfolds in a couple of weeks.
And so, I mean, I don't know if you heard about the music, you brought that up. First of all, how big of a deal is that? Because like we've heard that over and over again, and I'm an old head, man, so I don't quite get it. I mean, how important is that for, I guess, for athletes these days?
Yeah, I guess just for some people, it's like just a little more motivation, if you're just feeling a little tired, or you're feeling down about yourself or something, and then next, your favorite song just comes on, in the middle of practice or something, just to, get you moving, get you dancing, just to take your mind off of how tired practice is or something immediately, and just stuff like that, get you kind of going. It's just like a second breath, something like that.
What would
Gotcha.
be your song choice? Because apparently the players got to make the playlist.
Hey, anything Raw Wave, man, or anything Raw Wave or J. Cole. I know people be saying Raw Wave sad, but they're not really listening to what he's saying for real. But yeah, or any throwback R&Bs for sure. That get people dancing.
I personally think it's awesome, the
Yeah,
music at practice, because it's like one song will be something that'll be like heavy Christian music where they're like
yeah,
evangelizing, and then the
yeah.
next one is about like booty shaking and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, all right, they're just indiscriminate. Anybody gets to just decide
Yeah,
what it is that they want to
yeah.
do.
That's
But
funny. Yeah,
the second practice, it was so loud, like when they started, that like the neighbors, or maybe it was Coach Hoke, who knows, they called the police, and they made
that's
him
what I
turn
hear.
it
Yeah,
off, which is it's hilarious. But as you finished your pro day, you said that you went back to home to work out. You told us on pro day, but what have you been doing? What specifically, like, have you been focused on now that you don't have to be a track star?
man. Well, when I first came back, I'm not gonna lie, I started indulging into some snacks. I got a very big sweet tooth, so
Okay.
eating some candy, milkshakes, and everything like that. But really just enjoying time with family. Because I think Tumblin even mentioned. Well, actually, Moose, he mentioned how he chose to work out close to home, because we haven't been home in so long, like for a long period of time.
Right.
So it's just great being back with family. And just really working on just football stuff again, working on breaks and stuff like that, not lifting as heavy. But also just, the coaches want us to stay in camp shape. So, just making sure I'm conditioned and everything like that and ready to go when the opportunity comes.
There's obviously been a lot of DBs recently from SDSU going into the NFL. Have you been
Yeah.
able to pick any of their brains, and what advice have they given you?
Yeah, I've been able to talk to Trenton a lot, honestly, towards the end of the season last year. Just saying, just stay the course, just play hard. That's the main thing. And their film isn't gonna lie no matter what happens. I've talked to Taylor Hawkins and Darren Hall and everything like that. Just they just said, if I ever have any questions like during the process, just to hit them up and everything like that. But I've also still talked to Kyrie Woods. He's playing in the XFL right now.
Mhm.
We probably talk a lot the most. I'm just always checking on him and seeing how everything's going, how practices are going, and everything like that. But really, just the main advice is just when you get your opportunity, you just got to make the most of it. That's the main thing with the NFL is it's a smaller room, and so you got to take it whenever you get it and everything like that. So I'm just excited for that, and I would just be blessed with the opportunity.
Paul said he had a question he really wanted to ask you. I've got one too. A few years ago, when I read your SDSU bio, among all your high school achievements in sports, it said you were all-region choir. Tell us about that, and how do selections for the choir even get made? Like, what metric gets used for that?
Man, so that was it was so my dad was big on music because he felt as though it opened up the other side of your brain. So he made sure I was musically inclined. So I played instruments and I had to be in choir. And so choir, it was like the teacher was like, "Oh, I want you to do." It's called UIL, and it's like they want you to sing, and you have to sing like whatever song they have up on there, and then there's like 5 judges, and it's everybody in the city, and then like they have chairs from like 1 to like 100 or something, and chair 1 is the best, and then so on, and then somehow I was chair 1.
Oh, let's go.
I had to help sing the national anthem. It was funny, seeing a football player up there and everything like that. But yeah, it was just something just to do. That's the way my mind works as well. Like I just try any and everything, to be honest.
Do you still sing, or high school ended and your singing ended?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I sing. Everybody be singing, every now and then when a good song come on. When a good song comes on, or in the shower or something. But nah, I wouldn't say I sing for real. Nah.
I can definitely see one of those rookie hazings coming your way, bro.
Hey, I hope
Yes,
they
you
don't see
do.
this, man.
Said last question. We saw last year, you started, I believe, your own clothing company. Um, Tell us a little bit about that, what it's called, where people can find it, and what you hope to do with it in the future.
So yeah, what I said, I think this was we talked about this maybe before fall camp, or right after winter, something like that, summer. But yeah, it's called Culture Infinity. Just basically, I had it to where anyone can show off their culture and everything like that, or what they, kind of what they represent. It had each clothing that you chose or whatever had like their own little flag and all that type of stuff. So just to make it cultural to you. And yeah, so in the beginning, like I was selling out pretty fast. So I was selling to mostly my friends from back home and family and everything like that. And they were selling out so fast to where I couldn't even get them out for real. And like I was actually working, one on one with the actual manufacturer. So it took up a lot of time, and I wanted to focus on the season, so I kind of had to stop that. I'm probably gonna get back into it sooner or later. But yeah, right now, not really release anything, but yeah, in the future for sure.
Well, so it's been an absolute pleasure to cover you, the way you
Yes, sir.
carried yourself, on and off the field, man, mad respect. Thanks for taking the time to come talk to us.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys, man.
Yeah. Good luck at the next level.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Paul, that was 2 more interviews with Aztecs that are aiming for the NFL draft. Obviously, at Pro Day there were 5 guys. We haven't had a chance to talk to Sammy, but earlier on the podcast we had Noah Tumblin and Jalen Maiden on. This one is Jack Browning and Ced Barfield. Both of those guys obviously had great careers at San Diego State. Barfield longer. He's here for 6 years. Jack actually came in as a transfer from Grossmont College, but he's a hometown kid. What do you take away from our talks with both?
I think that it's an interesting, kind of world that these guys are both in. They're, among the elite athletes of the world, right? And they're both hoping that they are part of the elite, right? And working their way towards that. And so, I think that you could see, what's the right phrase? I think that, you could see that how important right now is to them, how important right now is to their future, and how hard they've been working. But I just thought they both handled the conversations really good. Not surprisingly, of course, talked to them before, but I mean, it was just really enjoyable to kind of catch up and to be able to, ask some of the questions about last season, like without so much like tension in the room because it's happening right now. And then, I just enjoyed their process and everything that they're going through.
Yeah, I thought, I wasn't in the interview with Jack, it was you and Johnny, obviously, but I think asking him about, and he was asked this before in the moment, but just looking back on it, like having to basically follow up Matt Araiza, the punt god. That is a difficult thing. And him almost, having, his average wasn't as high, but he still had a stellar season that first year as a punter. Was in the Ray Guy, I think final 8 or so. I don't remember. He didn't make the final 3, but he was in the final before the final 3. Last year, as you mentioned, he took a little bit of a step back, really because he had a couple bad games. Outside of those couple bad games, I think his numbers are still really good for the season. But I think he's got a good shot to make a team. I think he was mentioning that every team has their punter already. So those visits aren't coming fast and easy, but like people get injuries, punters regress, or some punters, do so well that their teams don't want to pay them $3 or $4 million a year, as we saw with Ariza with who was it? The Chiefs, right? The Chiefs had this all-pro punter who was going to be a free agent, and they knew they'd have to pay him $3 or $4 million a year. And with Patrick Mahomes making $1 billion or whatever he's making, they were like, let's go sign this punt god for probably a fifth of that, who could be just as good, So I think Jack will get an opportunity. He'll get an invite. He'll be at Ricky Mini Camp, and he'll get to show what he can do. And then Barfield, I think it could be a little bit tougher for him just because of the position that he plays. I think he will get a camp invite, and it'll be up to him to obviously show what he can do and impress some teams. But I think Barfield's career in 6 years, he for those of you watching on YouTube, like there's some jerseys behind him. Like he had 4 jerseys up there that were all his. He had changed numbers to the point where I didn't even remember number 15, his shirt year.
Yeah.
But like he went through a lot in terms of coaching change, right? From Rocky Long to Hoke, the playing in Carson, the COVID. He was there before COVID. He's probably the only, I think he and Garrett Fountain, right? Were the only guys that were there for 6 years who had been there before COVID, knew what life at Qualcomm Stadium was like. The coaching change, pandemic, and then that last year's losing season. So like he went through a lot as an Aztec, and obviously fighting through adversity and being where he is today he's a special player. I think that we should definitely use an Aztec for life.
I think well said. I think one of the interesting parts to me about, all of the DBs that we've talked to, right? Because obviously, Maiden, Tumblin, and now Barfield, compared to Browning, is that, conceivably with health, Jack could do that for like the next 20 years, right? I mean, punters punt for a very, very long time. And so I think there's maybe a little bit less urgency for him in that regards, but obviously wanting to figure out how much he wants to continue to pursue it and things like that if it doesn't happen immediately. But it obviously, with everything that Matt Araiza went through unjustly, I think it kind of just put like this, what should have been a celebration of the punters at San Diego State, turned into this thing that like you kind of couldn't cheer about, you kind of couldn't appreciate, because there was this dark cloud that was, thrust upon through some, ridiculous circumstances that shouldn't happen to anybody. Now that we know how it all turned out, right? And so I think it kind of made a little bit of what Browning did at San Diego State like underappreciated, in addition to the fact that he followed Matt Araiza, and like Matt Araiza was like as bigger than, who won the Heisman Trophy the year he won the Ray Guy Award? No one knows, because he like stole all of the thunder of college football that year. You know what I mean? And so it was just amazing. And then I really liked how you put it about Barfield is just, I think the numbers that he ran at Pro Day, I think are going to be what really determines the doors that get open and the amount of doors that get open. But I think that there's a lot to like about his possibilities if you are a talent evaluator. And if you feel like he has that quick twitch stuff to be able to move at that level, and where he tested all that stuff is not made public, and so it's really challenging to be able to know what those are. But he tackles, right? And that's a skill in the NFL that isn't like terrific, and it's just a skill that some have, some don't. He can tackle. He can play multiple positions. He will play special teams. And then, I don't think that it should be, especially if you're thinking about, what kind of a professional mini camp do you want to have? You bring Seth Barfield in, you bringing in a professional. He's the guy who they like he said, they kept asking him, hey, we need you to come talk to the media, because they didn't want to have to put some poor kid in there, because obviously we're going to grill him, but just being like honest about what's happened with the game and how that's going to work and things of that nature. And to his credit, he handled it really, really well. I mean, I can remember other times, not published, but asking a question and the answer is, I don't know. And then, like, he never gave us those, you know what I mean? And he was able to always be honest, intelligent, while also always protecting his teammates, always protecting San Diego State, always protecting his coaches. So, just a lot of respect for him, and obviously being a wildly talented guy. What can't Seth Barfield do? Quarterback, DV, all district singer in the choir,
all region choir.
all region choir, and then he gets, and then I don't know, he just, like, in his spare time he creates a clothing line that sells out immediately. So it's so demanding because of people wanting what he's doing, that he's like, no, I'm going to try to go to the NFL instead.
He was a good he was all defense in basketball as well.
And then there's that. Yeah. I mean,
well, yeah, he's an athlete first and foremost. Yeah, he was a captain, right?
Mhm.
When things are going bad, coaches, media relations folks at schools are looking at their captains to be the one in the spotlight to answer those questions. And I'd like to think, we're easy, right? We're not the toughest people to answer questions against. So, like, but I feel like, yeah, you're right. Between him and Garrett Fountain and Keenan and Maiden, I think those were Maiden wasn't cap. Jack Browning, but typically they didn't bring the punter out after games.
Right.
Between those three and Maiden, they were the ones that were typically at those games, those games that didn't go well, and they were the ones talking to the media, and as leaders and as captains, that's their responsibility. But yeah, we look back to some of those DBs like a Tariq Thompson. Like, I'm still shocked that Tariq Thompson is not in the NFL somewhere.
Yeah, me
Like,
too.
that guy can play football regardless of what his measurables are. He can play, and I'm very surprised by that. And then you've got obviously Taylor Hawkins and Trent Thompson are in uh, practice squads and will be on teams this year. But so we'll see. But, like, yeah, it's a tough. I think Dane Brugler from The Athletic, who's like the draft expert, a draft guru. He put out The Beast, which is his, like, 300-page evaluation of all the draft people, all the potential draftees. He had Jack Browning 7th from the punters,
Hmm.
and an undrafted free agent status. So, we'll see where he lands with that, but most likely it's probably, I don't know how many punters are going to get drafted this year, unlike 2 years ago where there was up to 5 or 6 that could have, and I think 3 or 4 did. But I think Barfield was 96th safety, and Cumberland was like 82nd corner. So, like, those guys have have a lot of guys in front of them in a deep position. But as we always say, there's only one team that needs to fall in love with you and think that they can work with you and that you could set a good example for them in what they're trying to do. So that's the positive spin to it, is that it doesn't matter what you're ranked in some of these rankings, because it's a matter of what you do when you get that shot. And these guys will work hard and they'll make the most out of it.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes if guys aren't, like, of all the guys that he mentioned, like Darren Hall, who was like a for sure draft pick, was really high on Brugler's list and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like it diminishes somehow what they did in college. But it should be known that, like, Seth Barfield was a great college football player, and nothing should, like, diminish that fact. And I think that Trenton Thompson, I think, is a perfect example of a potential pathway for Cedarious Barfield if prognosticators are correct. And that is, you go and you get a chance and you show out. You talked about Kyrie Woods. That was another really good football player at San Diego State that you just thought, it's interesting that this guy just didn't seem to get much. And then he goes to, the USFL and he's been playing and making all kinds of plays and doing all that stuff. And you're like, yeah, that's what we kind of thought he would do. So I think that, there's it's there for you and it's still competitive and it's still all of those kinds of things. And, the NFL is not in the business of not playing their best players and they got their work in front of them and we'll see where it lands.
Last thing, Darren Hall, I feel like Darren Hall is a name that gets mentioned more on this podcast from guests more than any other name. Whether it's like the current players talking about the mentorship they've gotten from him, either being his teammate or talking to him about NFL life when they're making that move, or from recruits who are talking from the Inland Empire, who are talking about Darren Hall being someone that they looked up to, or they asked about San Diego State when they're making their decision. Like, that name gets brought up a lot, and just the value of being an alum in the NFL means so much to any program.
Yeah.
But Darren Hall specifically, I think, has meant a lot to San Diego State just for that reason. And you can tell that by his name coming up by our guests so often.
Great call. Absolutely. And we should maybe figure out a way to get him on here.
That's send an email to the Falcons.
That's it.
Yeah, that would be awesome for sure. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us. Hopefully you enjoyed those interviews. The spring game is coming up Saturday at 1:00 at Snapdragon Stadium. I think gates open at noon and parking lots open at 10 a.m. It is $10 for parking, so keep that in mind when you're heading out there. Free ticket, but $10 parking.
You got to secure your ticket though ahead of time.
Right. I think you have to go on the app or on the website and hope to see everybody out there. I don't know what the weather report looks like, but hopefully it'll be a nice San Diego day. As always, thank you guys for liking, sharing, subscribing, following on all your favorite platforms, and we'll talk to you guys next time. You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison.